Hello students, welcome to Geography NCERT series. In this particular series, we'll be discussing about geography textbooks of NCERT class 11th and 12th. Before we begin, let us look at this geography syllabus in prelims examination. It consists of physical, social, economic geography of India and the world. Under physical geography, we'll be discussing about different physical features, landforms, climate and natural vegetation of both India and the world. Under social and economic geography, which is dealt together as human geography, we'll be discussing about different resources spread across India and the world, transportation and other aspects. This is the number of questions asked in prelims examination from geography. If you see in 2013 there were 22 questions asked, and in 2019 there were 8 questions asked. The number of questions asked from geography has decreased slightly from 2015, but on an average we can expect 7 to 10 questions from geography in prelims examination. We'll be starting with NCERT class 11. In this particular video, we will start with chapter 1 from NCERT class 11, that is India and its physical environment. Chapter 1 of India and its physical environment basically deals with 4 concepts. That is, the first one, latitudinal extent of India. Second, the longitudinal extent of India. The implications of the latitudinal extent and the longitudinal extent of India. Third, size of India and its location. Fourth, neighbors of India. What are the countries that share border with India and what are the different countries that are located around India? So in chapter 1, these are the 4 things that are discussed mainly. Before we begin with the chapter, here's a small test for you. You can see 4 statements on this slide. Pause this video, take a minute, read each of these statements and identify if they are true or false. You might be knowing answers to some of this. If you don't know, try to take a guess. The first statement says that India is smaller than Russia, China, the United States of America, but larger than Australia. The second statement says the distance from the north to south extremes of India is less than that of the west to east extremes. This distance of Indian mainland from north to south extreme points is less than the distance between its westernmost and easternmost extreme points. The third statement says India shares the longest land frontier with China. That is, India shares the longest land boundary with China. Finally, the fourth statement says West Bengal and Sikkim are the only 2 states that share their border with 3 other countries. The West Bengal and Sikkim are the only 2 states that share their border with 3 different countries. Take a guess and be ready with your answers. By the end of this video, you'll be able to know if each of these statements is true or false. Let us begin with the first paragraph of chapter 1. It says that the mainland of India extends from Kashmir in the north to Kanyakumari in the south. The mainland of India extends from Kashmir in the north to Kanyakumari in the south, which is in Tamil Nadu. It also says that India's territorial limit further extends towards the sea up to 12 nautical miles. And 1 nautical mile is approximately 1.8 kilometers. What is this term territorial limit means? There's a concept called territorial waters, under which there are 2 terms, territorial sea and exclusive economic zone. So there's a line called baseline which is drawn from the coastline or the beginning of the sea of any country. 12 nautical miles from this baseline is considered as territorial sea. But what is this territorial sea? Territorial sea is the area where the state has this sovereign power. The state has the sovereign power. That is, the state has the jurisdiction over this area, the territorial sea. Exclusive economic zone is the zone which extends from baseline up to 200 nautical miles. So what is this exclusive economic zone? As the term itself says that in this area the country can explore or extract marine resources. It might be oil, natural gas or any other resource, and it is also responsible for maintaining the ecological environment in this particular zone. Also in this particular zone, the state or the country cannot restrict the movement of ships of other countries. So even though the particular country has the rights to explore the energy resources, it doesn't have the right to restrict the movement of ships of other countries. Most of the times we see that there's a conflict or dispute between different countries over the exclusive economic zone or territorial sea because there's an overlap of seas, or the coastline is shared by different countries. The seas are shared by different countries. For example, South China Sea is an example that most of us are aware of, where China claims that it has the authority to use the entire South China Sea. The territorial sea and exclusive economic zone concept is according to the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. We'll take the example of India and Sri Lanka. This is a case where the territorial waters or the exclusive economic zone of India also overlap with the territorial waters and exclusive economic zone of Sri Lanka. India and Sri Lanka, both the countries, decided in 1974 and 1976 through treaties. They have a treaty saying that this particular line will act as an international maritime boundary line between India and Sri Lanka. So they have decided that this line will act as an international maritime boundary line between India and Sri Lanka in order to avoid any disputes. You might have seen in news most of the times that the Tamil fishermen are caught by Sri Lankan government. That's because the Tamil fishermen or the Indian fishermen are not allowed to cross this particular maritime boundary line for the fishing. Moving ahead, let us look at the latitudinal and longitudinal extent of India. As you can see in this image, the latitudinal extent of India is from 8 degrees 4 minutes north latitude to 37 degrees 6 minutes north latitude. And its longitudinal extent is from 68 degrees 7 minutes east longitude to 97 degrees 25 minutes east longitude. If you see roughly the latitudinal and the longitudinal extent is around 30 degrees. Both the latitudinal and longitudinal extent of India is around 30 degrees. So here we can also see that the distance from the northernmost point to the southernmost point of the mainland is 3,214 kilometers, whereas the distance from westernmost point to the easternmost point is 2,933 kilometers. We said that both the latitudinal and longitudinal extent is around 30 degrees. But why is the distance from northernmost to southernmost point greater than the distance from westernmost to easternmost point? This is because we know that So why is the distance from the northernmost point to southernmost point greater than the distance from the westernmost to easternmost point, though the latitudinal and longitudinal extent is roughly 30 degrees? This is because we know that the latitudes are the parallel lines. The distance between two latitudes remains the same as they are the parallel lines, but the longitudes are not parallel lines. All the longitudes converge at the poles. All the longitudes, they meet at the poles. So the distance between two longitudes decreases as we move towards the poles. So though the longitudinal extent is also 30 degrees, the difference or the distance between these longitudes decreases as we move towards the poles, and as India is in northern hemisphere, the distance between the longitudes keeps decreasing. So this is the reason that the distance from northernmost to southernmost point is greater than the distance from westernmost to easternmost point. Now let us look at the implications of having such a large latitudinal extent, that is nearly 30 degrees. We have no You might have been aware of the concept called heat zones. This is discussed in NCERT class 6. So there are three heat zones of Earth. They are the tropical zone, the temperate zone, and the polar zone. Sun rays fall directly over the tropical zone, which spreads from Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn. So this zone receives maximum heat and it is the hottest zone. And it records the maximum temperature. Whereas the temperate zone, the sun rays fall slantingly over this zone and the heat received is less compared to the tropical zone. And polar zones are the coolest places on the earth. They receive very less sunlight and therefore very less heat. So if you come to the India map, we can see that the southern part of India falls under tropical zone, whereas the northern part of India falls under temperate zone. So basically in tropical zone, the range of temperature in a day or in a year is usually less. The minimum and the maximum temperature, the difference between the minimum and maximum temperature recorded in a day and in a year is less compared to the range in temperate zone. In temperate zone, the minimum and maximum temperature both in a day and in a year is usually high compared to the tropical zone. So India has both the tropical heat zone and the temperate heat zone. This is because of the large latitudinal extent India has. Now coming to the longitudinal extent, we know that the longitudinal extent is also nearly 30 degrees. So how does this impact India? So we know that sun rises at different times in different places of India. For example, the sun rises in Arunachal Pradesh 2 hours before it rises in the places in Rajasthan and Gujarat. So, but how do we have a single time throughout India? That is because we have an Indian Standard Time, that is IST. This 82.5 degrees east longitude is considered as the Indian Standard Time longitude. It passes through 5 different states, that is Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, and finally Andhra Pradesh. So it passes through 5 states: UP, MP, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, and Andhra Pradesh. But why is 82.82.5 degrees east longitude considered as IST? Why not 70 degrees east longitude, or why not 85 degrees east longitude? Let us understand. So we have 0 degrees longitude, which is taken as the Greenwich longitude. The Greenwich mean time is calculated using this longitude. The time at this longitude is taken as the International Standard Time, or the Greenwich Mean Time. It is also called as UTC. Find out the full form of UTC. So this 0 degrees longitude is taken as the standard longitude, or the base. We know that Earth rotates around itself, that is, it completes rotation in 24 hours. It covers 360 degrees in 24 hours. So in 1 hour, how many degrees does it cover? If we divide 360 by 24, we get 15 degrees. It means that it covers 15 degrees in 1 hour. Let us understand this in terms of time. Let us take two different places, place A and place B. Imagine that place A is on 30 degrees east longitude, whereas place B is on 15 degrees east longitude. The longitudinal difference between them is 15 degrees. So the time difference between them will be 1 hour. For example, if the time at point A is 4 p.m., the time at point B will be 3 p.m. So for every 15 degrees of longitudinal difference, the time difference will be 1 hour. So if you take the longitudinal difference of 7.5 degrees, the time difference will be 30 minutes. So what they have done is, from 0 degrees longitude, they have marked lines for every 7.5 degrees so that they can easily calculate time using this as base. So this will be plus 30 minutes, plus 1 hour, plus 1 hour 30 minutes, plus 2 hours, and so on. So they have decided that all the standard meridians of different countries will be in multiples of 7 degrees 30 minutes longitude. So if you multiply 7 degrees 30 minutes with 11, you get 82 degrees 30 minutes east, which is the IST longitude, that is the standard meridian longitude for India. And Indian standard time is 5 hours 30 minutes ahead of Greenwich time. So now we know why 82 degrees 30 minutes east longitude is taken as Indian standard time. Let us go back to the Indian standard time. We also discussed that sun rises 2 hours before in Arunachal Pradesh than it rises in Gujarat and Rajasthan. But all over India we have single time which is based on this particular longitude. So how does this affect people in different places? Let us understand. Usually in winter, sun rises at 4 a.m. in Arunachal Pradesh. But our office timings are from usually 9 or 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or in some places 5 p.m. So in Arunachal Pradesh, though sun rises at 4 a.m., they have to go to work at 9 a.m. So they nearly lose 1 to 2 hours of daylight every single day. And they have to work after the sunset. The sun also sets early in Arunachal Pradesh, maybe around 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. based on the season. So they're losing 1 to 2 hours of daylight every day, and they have to work 1 to 2 hours after sunset. This results in consumption of more electricity, as the offices have to run with electricity. It results in consumption of more electricity, and it also has an effect on the biological cycle of the people living in the northeastern states, especially Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Assam, Manipur, these particular places. So there were demands for multiple time zones in India. There were demands from a long time that we should have a different time zone for the northeastern states so that they do not have to deal with the problems that we discussed earlier, that is the more consumption of electricity and effect on biological clock of the people. So the idea of having two time zones is to avoid the loss of daylight and excess electricity usage in northeast, and also to reduce the effect on biological clock. But what might happen if we have multiple time zones, that is more than one time zone? It might result in rail accidents. So the trains coming from this part of the country, when they enter the different time zone, they need to adjust their timings also. So this might result in rail accidents, and it also, people also say that it might promote sense of alienation of northeast. When if northeast have a different time zone, they might feel that we are separate from the country, and it might promote sense of alienation. So these are the two cons raised against the idea of two time zones, whereas these are the 2 points that are for time zones. The National Physical Laboratory, which is the timekeeper of the country, has suggested that we have two different time zones, and they suggested that 89 degrees 52 minutes east longitude should be the dividing line. But this idea is not implemented yet. So we have discussed about the latitudinal extent of India and longitudinal extent of India and the implications of having such a large latitudinal and longitudinal extent. Now let us see the relative size of India. India is the 7th largest country in the world with 3.28 million square kilometer of area. It accounts for only 2.4% of the world's land, but if we see the population, India accounts for nearly 18% of the world's population. You can see that Australia is twice the size of India, and America is almost thrice the size of India. But the populations of these countries are very less compared to the population of India. Even China is nearly 3 times the size of India. Now let us look at different countries that share their land boundaries with India. Take a minute, pause the video, count the number of countries that share their boundaries with India. We have 7 different countries that share their land boundaries with India, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. So we have 7 countries that share their land boundaries with India. Now let us look at the length of the boundaries that different countries share. If you see this map, which is taken from the official website of Ministry of Home Affairs, let us look at the length of the land boundaries that different countries share with India. So Bangladesh shares nearly 4,000 kilometers of land boundary with India. This is the highest. Next, China shares nearly 3,500 kilometers of boundary with India. And then Pakistan, we have 3,323 kilometers. India also has a coastline of nearly 7,500 kilometers, when the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep Islands are considered. The complete coastline is nearly 7,516 kilometers, whereas the land boundary is nearly more than 15,000 kilometers. Now, recently Citizenship Amendment Bill has been in the news. So we need to understand the concept of open borders. So India had friendship treaties with both Nepal and Bhutan. According to these friendship treaties, India and Bhutan have open borders. What do you mean by open borders? Open borders are the borders which allows the citizens of Nepal to come to India and the citizens of Bhutan to come to India and vice versa, citizens of India to Nepal, India and Bhutan without having any restrictions. So basically at the border, there are no restrictions of movement of people. People of Nepal can come to India and people of India can go to Nepal without any documents like visa and passport. So this also resulted in some illegal trafficking and entry of unidentified persons into in India. For example, if a person from Pakistan doesn't have a visa or passport to enter into India, he can go to Nepal. He can get the visa or passport from Nepal as Nepal citizen and then he can enter India. So there were some concerns raised against this issue of borders or issue on open borders, but as India had the friendship treaties with in Nepal and Bhutan, it still has open borders. Now coming to the concept of Indian subcontinent, the textbook says that Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh together form the Indian subcontinent. Basically, subcontinent is a part of a continent, but it has all the characteristics that a continent has. That is distinct geographical, cultural or historical features. So India, this entire subcontinent shares a common geography. That is, it is formed because of the movement of Indian plate and when it collided with Eurasian plate. So this is the boundary that separates the Indian subcontinent. Now coming to South Asia, India is located in the South Central Asia, South Central part of Asia. You can see South Asia has Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and also Afghanistan and Maldives and Sri Lanka. So the only difference between the Indian subcontinent and South Asia is Afghanistan. All these countries are also members of SAARC, that is South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. The headquarters of SAARC are located in Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. It is important that we connect geography with international relations and foreign affairs so that it's easy to remember the locations of different countries and it helps to understand the foreign relations better. Now coming to the island neighbors of India, we have Sri Lanka and Maldives, the two island neighbors of India. Sri Lanka is separated from India through Park Strait and Gulf of Mannar. And then we have islands, the Lakshadweep and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are separated by a 10-degree channel. So these are the four different statements that we discussed in the beginning of the class. Now let us see if each of them are true or false. So the first statement, India is smaller than Russia, China, the United States of America but larger than Australia, is false because India is smaller than Australia and not larger than Australia. The distance from north to south extremes of India is more than that of the distance from its east to west extremes. China shares the longest land frontier with India is wrong. It is not China, it is Bangladesh. Most of the people think China shares the longest land frontier with India, but it's wrong. Bangladesh shares the longest land frontier with India. Next, West Bengal and Sikkim are the only two states that share their border with three other countries. This is wrong. And there's another state which also shares border with three other countries. Find out which state it is. So now let us look at some of the previous year's questions that were asked and which can be solved using the idea or the information that we got from this particular unit. So this is the question asked in prelims 2018. It says, among the following cities, which one lies on a longitude closest to that of Delhi? The answer was Bangalore. This is a very tricky question. You need to be very sure of the longitudes of Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad. You can eliminate Nagpur and Pune, but you might be confused between Bangalore and Hyderabad. The answer is Bangalore. This is a question asked in 2015. Which of the following pairs of states of India indicates the easternmost and westernmost state? This is an easy question. We all know that it's Arunachal Pradesh and Gujarat. The easternmost and the westernmost states are Arunachal Pradesh and Gujarat. So the answer is D. Now this is a question asked in 2017, an interesting question. It says if you travel by road from Kohima to Kottayam, what is the minimum number of states within India through which you can travel, including the origin and the destination, including the place of origin and destination? So Kohima is the let us look at the map. So the Kohima is the capital of Nagaland, and we have Kottayam at Kerala, in Kerala. So we have to start from Kohima and reach Kottayam in Kerala. And we should see that how many minimum number of states should we pass through. So to reach any northeastern state like Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur or Mizoram and Tripura, one has to definitely pass through two states. They are West Bengal and Assam. Assam and West Bengal are like the gateway towards the northeast. Without passing through them, you cannot reach the northeast. So from Nagaland, we have to go to Assam. That is, from Assam, we have to go to West Bengal. From West Bengal, we can go to Odisha. From Odisha, we can go to Andhra Pradesh. From AP to Tamil Nadu and then to Kerala. If we go through this route, we have Nagaland 1, Assam 2, West Bengal 3, Odisha 4, AP 5, Tamil Nadu 6 and Kerala 7. Finally 7. We are counting the state of origin and destination also. So if we go through this route, we cover 7 different states. If you choose any other route, for example from West Bengal, if you go to Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Telangana, Karnataka and then Kerala, you get one extra state. That is, you get 8 or more than 7. So 7 is the minimum number of states that one has to travel through to reach from Kohima to Kerala, so that the number of states is minimum. So the answer is 7. Now there are 5 practice questions provided. Go through the chapter, read the chapter and try to answer these 5 practice questions. The first question is, arrange the following countries in the ascending order of the length of the border they share with India. Arrange these countries in the ascending order of the length of the borders they share with India. The second question is, which of the following countries is not a part of the Indian subcontinent? Third one, Tropic of Cancer passes through which of the following states? The options are given, you can go through it. Question 4 states, Indian Standard Meridian passes through which of the following states? And finally, fifth question, among the following cities, which one lies on a latitude closest to that of Delhi? Try to answer these 5 practice questions. You can put your answers in the comment box or keep it in your notebook. In the next video, we'll start with the answers of this class and move to chapter 2. So read the first chapter and try to answer the practice questions and go through chapter 2 so that you can understand chapter 2 easily while watching the video. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll update chapter 2 soon.